All right, let's watch this here. So this is Doug Ford going backwards with sex education. This is from Left of the Box's little collection on Doug Ford. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Doug Ford bites. Yeah. Hey, Doug Ford bites. Isn't that right, Tulip? She wanted to help out right now, as in she wouldn't shut up. So now she's going to be in this video as well.
Aw, kitty.
Do you remember when Doug Ford did this? Doug Ford reverting Ontario back to 1998 sex ed curriculum is dangerous for kids, experts say. Ontario Premier Doug Ford's decision to return the province to sex ed curriculum created in the 1990s, which doesn't include topics like same-sex marriage or cyber safety, is being slammed by education experts who say the move is regressive and puts students at risk.
So this is the same shit that's going on in the States right now, and it's the same shit that we have to fight back against, because this is just insane. You know, like, I never had a good sex ed at school. I went to school in Tennessee. They didn't even talk about it. That's not great. You know? There's been some interesting situations. But needless to say, if there's already an existing program that is, if kind of milquetoast, but understandable for most people, and he's trying to take that back to the 90s before cybersecurity and cyber safety and just like online interaction was really a thing. Like, come on, guy. Like,
turns out Tulip didn't want attention. She just wants food. Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that.
So Doug Ford did this with the curriculum. He changed it and he pushed it back to the 1990s, back when things like consent wasn't being talked about in sex ed. Now, I'm no fan of Kathleen Wynne. She did a lot of horrible things while in office, like selling off Hydro One. Remember, the Liberals helped get Doug Ford into office right now. That said, the abuse that she went through trying to push through this updated curriculum was horrendous. This update to sex ed was absolutely needed. I wish that the updated version was around when I was in school. And given her gender and sexual orientation, the attacks launched against her were horrific. And I appreciate that she stuck it through and stuck to it and actually got this updated curriculum through. So of course Doug Ford wants to get rid of any good lasting legacy she put in for the province.
Yeah, this is just what conservatives do. They're gonna always try to ratchet it back to whatever the fuck they had, whatever their regressive policy or prescriptive ideology is. They're gonna try to push it back to that. This happens every time, no matter where you're at. Yeah, so re-electing Doug Ford is absolutely retarded. If you're gonna do that, don't vote for somebody else. Even if it's even if you're gonna have to vote Liberal. Actually, no, don't vote Liberal. The way I see the Ontario election right now is if you live in a district where the NDP can win, vote NDP. If you live in a district where the Greens can win, vote Green. If you live in a district where neither of those two parties have a chance, vote Liberal. But if you have any option whatsoever, vote NDP or Green in this election. Because we need to get rid of Doug Ford. We need to get rid of all of these stupid conservatives that are in charge of these provinces, running them into the ground, selling off public infrastructure that will take decades if they're ever able to get back. So this election in Ontario is very important. It'll determine whether or not Ontario goes backwards 20 years or moves ahead with the rest of society, the rest of the world. And Ontario is probably the most important province. You could argue that it's Quebec or BC, but Ontario is generally seen as the most important province in Canada. And if Toronto goes, God, I did it again. And if Ontario goes downhill, there's going to be some major downstream effects of that. I don't know why I keep saying Toronto. I was in Toronto this week. That might be why. So this is just insane.
But that's not the only thing he did to education to make it worse. From Press Progress, Doug Ford's budget includes a hidden $1.3 billion decrease in education funding. Ontario schools likely on track for $12.3 billion shortfall over the next decade.
Yeah, fiscal responsibility. Yeah. No, fuck you, Doug Ford. This is unbelievable. You can't just decrease education funding by over $1 billion and expect nobody to notice. Budget, let's see, $30 billion in base funding for schools and another $760 million in time limited funding. All told, fiscal update was 31.56. $1.3 billion. Jesus Christ.
And it doesn't just end there with the shortfalls. From CBC News, Ontario owes teachers more than $100 million for interfering with their bargaining rights.
Yeah, like, fucking pay your teachers. This is the same thing we talked about the other day with the Air Force guys and on-base housing. If the government can't support the bare minimum, which is education, military, housing, food production, if they can't secure these basic industries, these basic like positions in our society, because they don't have money to pay for them, then we're leaning closer and closer towards failed state territory, and I don't want to live in a failed state. I already moved from America.
Yeah, Doug Ford did that. He was interfering with their bargaining rights because he hates unions.
Of course Doug Ford hates unions. Doug Ford's a conservative, regressive asshole. But the fact is that teachers' unions are the most important, and they should go on strike if they don't have the ability to get paid. And if that means a wildcat strike and a legal strike, they should do it anyways. Because this is unbelievable.
Doug Ford is planning on privatizing as much education as he can. Why would he be doing all this? Well, it helps out all of his buddies make more money.
Of course.
Not to mention, it means that when he leaves politics, he's going to have a bunch of lucrative jobs waiting for him. He doesn't care about the average person. All he cares about is making the rich richer. This election, we need to vote Ford out on June 2nd, hit the polls, and I'll say it, vote NDP. Screw the Liberals. We're in this mess because of them as well.
That's fair. Yeah, I am very anti-liberal. I'm just as anti-liberal as I am anti-conservative. So vote NDP if you can. If you want to, vote Green, because I think that the Green Party actually has some pretty good options in Ontario, especially if you live in one of the districts that could actually go green. I believe there are 3 or 4 districts right now that are like toss-ups between NDP Green or Liberal Green. So if you live in one of those districts, take a look. I don't know exactly which ones they are. We should probably do a rundown on that as well. But there are 2 to 3 that are likely green spots, likely green seats right now, and that's important. And if you want to vote NDP, vote NDP. Those are the 2 options you should be looking at right here in this election if you care about people and if you care about your fellow Ontarians. Hey, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want to catch my next live stream that this video came from. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a fantastic day, y'all. Peace.